Greetings from Tokyo. This is Daisuke Beppu, and I wanted to make a quick comment, if I could, about the news regarding FilmStruck. And as you know, the announcement was made with respect to the suspension of services of the streaming service FilmStruck. So this is a very kind of surprising bit of news, and I am not a streaming services guy. As some of you may already know, I am 100% purely in the physical media camp, so to speak. I don't have any subscriptions for streaming services. I had never actually even used a streaming service, to be perfectly frank. So I'm not at all in the game, so to speak. So I don't know the specifics about what FilmStruck had to offer, except from the information that I gathered from my friends and from online sources. So with that in mind, I am still very I'm very saddened by the news about FilmStruck and how FilmStruck is now ending, because I know that it was a very important way for, or it is a very important way for many people to access these really great films, not least of which being, of course, the Criterion Collection films. I know that it's not very easy, and it's not very cheap all the time to collect these physical media, Blu-rays and DVDs. So I can really appreciate the fact that for many people, FilmStruck was a way to access all these great films at maybe a reasonable price. So, and that was in lieu of having to pay all this money for each particular physical release Blu-ray or DVD. So I really appreciate that very much. And I also know that FilmStruck was something that people relied upon quite heavily. And I know that because of that reliance, that fashioned many people's buying habits regarding physical media. So for example, if people felt like they could watch a film on FilmStruck, that meant that they didn't necessarily need to buy it as a physical media Blu-ray, for example. So I know many people, for instance, who have a very limited number of actual Blu-rays and DVDs from the Criterion Collection, but that was because they used FilmStruck and they relied upon FilmStruck and the enormous wealth of films and supplementary or additional information that was available through that channel. So it's a very, I think it's quite an unfortunate thing until the dust settles and we find out more information about what Criterion's options will be going forward with respect to its streaming service, or with respect to its making the Criterion collection films available via a streaming service. You know, I think it's a very, I understand it's a very precarious situation to be in with respect to Criterion Collection fans who at the moment are concerned about not having access without having to shell out the cash to buy all these Blu-ray releases. So I can appreciate that this is a bit of a shock, although I would still wait to see what Criterion's plans are going forward regarding what it plans to do as a result of this sudden news. And also, I think the other great thing that is being lost here is the fact that, and this is something I'm very much cognizant of, and I really respect Criterion and FilmStruck for this, but they made films and other materials available on FilmStruck that weren't readily available or available at all on a DVD or Blu-ray physical media release. So there was quite a number films that were only available on FilmStruck or that were otherwise made readily available on FilmStruck. And I really appreciated that. I admired that. As a non-FilmStruck user, I'll admit I was a little bit jealous of that situation, because that meant that many people could watch these films, and for me it was more of a challenge to try to get my hands on the physical media alternative to such films that were otherwise easily available on FilmStruck. So I can very much sympathize with the feeling of sadness with respect to the losing of FilmStruck, if for anything, because this means that, at least for the time being, these films that are hitherto not made available in a Blu-ray or DVD release will not be available once FilmStruck is gone. So this is quite I think it's a very shocking thing. Maybe I shouldn't have been so surprised by the news, perhaps, given the current climate. But I think it is a very, nonetheless, it is a very sad day for people who are very much into this kind of cinema and the kind of cinema and cinematic riches that FilmStruck and Criterion had to offer in terms of streaming. So I'm pleased, for those of you who are directly affected by this particular piece of news, please know that I am very much sympathetic to your position, and I'm quite perplexed. I also want to say that I don't want to sound like I'm gloating, or that I'm oh, look at me, I'm a Blu-ray collector, and something like, nothing like that. I don't feel like that at all. I think on the contrary, I do feel genuinely very sad, and I think Criterion is very savvy. I think there are many savvy people, and they've shown to have a certain sense of good sense and resilience. So I think that we can rely upon them to try to forge ahead with some business plan or some kind of strategy going forward, because I think they realize that streaming is a viable option. And so, as I said, I am a physical media guy 100%, and I still appreciate the values of streaming services. So I can trust Criterion and the people over at Criterion to find the right way forward for those Criterion Collection devotees who are very much reliant upon Criterion's streaming services and their capabilities there. So I think we can rely upon that. And Criterion's own announcement in reaction to the news, I think, was struck a very perfect tone in terms of expressing their own surprise, and also expressing thanks to the FilmStruck people, and also to the FilmStruck subscribers, and also trying to suggest that they are trying to think of a way forward. So that gives me great confidence in Criterion and its brand. So I'm looking forward to the days and weeks ahead where we can find out more news about Criterion's plans going forward. I am not by any means a streaming services expert. Again, I don't know, I don't have direct experience with streaming services. I don't engage in streaming services, and that's not because of any kind of inherent I don't inherently hate streaming services. I don't fundamentally disagree with them. I'm perfectly happy with streaming services, and I'm very impressed with what they have to offer, of course. But it's just that I'm just a physical media guy, and I think I think I always have been and always will be. So I apologize if my comments might seem a little bit inappropriate. So if you feel that way, again, please accept my sincerest apologies. I really mean that, because I don't want to sound like I'm gloating or anything like that. But I really do want to, again, convey to you, especially to those of you who are maybe affected by this, just to convey to you that I'm very sympathetic to the situation, and I'm very surprised. But I, like you, am probably just looking forward to how Criterion and how other streaming services are going to respond to this going forward, because this is not the end. There are possibilities available. So let's just keep our minds open to the possibilities, and let's just make sure that we are reading the details of the news and the announcements, and just trying to make sense of it ourselves, while we are ultimately trying to do what is the whole point, right? Which is to enjoy films and to enjoy cinema, and to be exposed to films that we would have not otherwise been exposed to had it not been for great labels like Criterion and others. So with that, my friends, let me leave it there, and I would like to again thank you very much. Please keep watching great cinema. And for those of you who are still FilmStruck subscribers, you still have some time left to watch some great films from there. So I encourage you to watch as many films as you can on that service. Please, if you have any questions or comments, please let me know below. Okay, my friends, take care.